Just weeks before the first ballots are cast, the Democratic side of this primary is crowded. But President Trump also faces a challenger from within his own party. Former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld is a familiar face in New Hampshire, ready to discuss time he spent on a farm and his career fighting some notorious mobsters. Long before he reached the pinnacle of Massachusetts politics, serving 2 terms as governor in the 1990s, Bill Weld grew up on a family farm. And the Oxford and Harvard-educated descendant of someone who signed the Declaration of Independence says he's occasionally faced a gentle skepticism regarding stories of his humble origins.
When I was in politics, I would meet people who said, "You didn't grow up on a farm." And this mainly people from the Midwest. And I would say, "Yes, I did." And they said, "Yeah, prove it." I said, "Okay, well, I was in charge of the chicken coop on our farm, and that meant going out and getting the warm eggs in the morning, even if I had to get them out from under the hen." And they said, "Yeah." And I said, so I would go out barefoot. It wasn't all that far from the house, too much trouble to put on shoes that early in the morning. So I'd go out barefoot. "Yeah." So we had a lot of snow, and you know, the ground was frozen. It was very, very cold. And I went right through the barnyard over the chicken coop. "Yeah." And I know how to keep your feet warm if you're going out on the icy snow in the winter in bare feet. "Yeah." You step right in the middle of every cow pie you can find, because in the middle, it's still warm.
An avid baseball fan in his youth, Weld is a New York native who started out following the Brooklyn Dodgers, which he says made it easy to relate to Red Sox fans.
If you're a Dodger fan, you hate the Yankees. So I hated the Yankees before I moved to Boston from New York. I didn't have to pretend like Hillary Clinton when she went to New York to run for the Senate, and she put on this big Yankees hat. Please. But I'm a pretty good sports nut, like a lot of them, and the quirkier the better. So the Sox going from, you know, a terrible season to the World Championship and then repeating, and you know, when I was in office, I spent a lot of time with, saw a lot of Mo Vaughn, Mike Milbury for the Bruins, and actually number 4, Bobby Orr, was the guy I probably knew best of all the professional sports people. I spent a fair amount of time in Canada, have for years and years, just on business, and I would see number 4 up there. But what a gent, what a prince he is.
Weld picked up some stage skills of his own as a member of Hasty Pudding, a burlesque theater group at Harvard, and also performing at the all-boys Middlesex School.
So before my voice changed, I played Yum Yum, the female lead in The Mikado. Oh, cool. And actually our first house party we had during this campaign in New Hampshire was given by Fergus Cullen and his wife. And I walked in and after about 5 minutes, it turned out that she and I had both played Yum Yum. So I said, "Can you still do the entrance where the 3 of them come in and they sing a song, 3 little maids from school are we, filled to the brim with girlish glee. 3 little maids who all unwary come from the ladies' seminary, freed from its genius tutelary. Da-da-da-da-da. 3 little maids from school, and you have fans. 3 little maids, whoosh, from school, and she and I didn't miss a beat. And we, without rehearsing it at all, we did this little, you know, 2-step, and then both went 3 little maids from school. And everyone said, "What's that? Were you throwing something?"
Weld says that theatrical training came in handy in his later career.
So I say it's the best possible preparation for politics. I mean, how about getting up in women's clothes and being on stage making a fool of yourself all night long? What better preparation could there be?
From silly to serious, Weld also recounted his time as U.S. Attorney prosecuting Boston's notorious Angiulo crime family.
So they were on trial. We wound up getting 45 to 60 years on all these guys who ran the rackets in Boston. They'll all die in prison. But while the case was ongoing, we'd see him in court. "Good morning, Mr. Weld." "Good morning, Mr. Angiulo." "Oh, Mr. Bayonne, so nice to see you as well." And one time when we were doing the investigation, we had subpoenaed a whole bunch of documents which seemed to be just bookkeeping, clerical, bank records, but actually were essential to putting our case together. They were the glue. And we didn't want Jerry Angiulo and his lawyers to hear us coming on this thing. So we got the most junior person in the office and assigned him to be in charge of the grand jury that day. And Jerry O'Sullivan and I, he was the head of the strike force, I was the U.S. attorney, we went over to the North End in Boston and ostentatiously walked into, making a lot of noise, walked into Francesca's restaurant, which was owned by Jerry Angiulo, as we well knew. Jerry was there. And he said, "Mr. O'Sullivan, Mr. Weld, what are you doing here? Don't you have big, important business over at the courthouse today?" And O'Sullivan, who was the front guy, said, "Nah, nothing's going on over there, just technicalities and nothing." So I like to think they let their guard down a little bit, and the papers all came in without objection.
By the book in the courtroom, when Weld got into politics, he found it helpful to showcase some of his more relatable interests, like his love of rock and roll.
And I had something of a reputation for being a Grateful Dead fan, which I cultivated as governor, because, you know, the problem with me running in Massachusetts, which is a very ethnic state, is that here I am just, you know, thin-blooded, limp-wristed, blue blood Yankee in a very Irish, Italian state, 52% Catholic. So anything that varied that image would be good for me politically. And I really did like a couple of the Grateful Dead albums, Working Man's Dead and American Beauty. And so that got out. People thought that was kind of odd. And they said, the press would say, "Well, Mr. Weld, how many Grateful Dead concerts have you been to in your life?" And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't answer that." So they thought it was like, you know, 110. The correct answer, which the press never learned, was 0.
On the family front, Weld has 5 adult children, 3 stepchildren, and a growing number of grandchildren.
We have one problem in the family. I have 9 grandchildren. 8 of them are males, so we're lighting candles for girls. If anyone can give me any pointers on how to have granddaughters, very much appreciated.
Asked if he has any big goals left in life beyond winning the White House, Weld says he's still trying to make a lasting impression in the literary world.
I've written 3 novels, and I'd like to write a novel that would really endure. I guess that's it. And I probably will if I get the time for it. Several of the candidates who attended our cafes are no longer running for president. A great diner experience is one thing that New Jersey and New Hampshire have in common, at least according to Garden State Senator Cory Booker. The Democrat grew up in Jersey, an All-American football star who went on to play at Stanford. But he says some of his most important education came while volunteering for the campus suicide hotline.
It humbles you, and you also see the dignity of individuals who are really struggling. So this was a part that expanded my understanding of empathy so much. And I don't mean this word to judge our nation. We are extraordinary. I love our country. But I often say if America hasn't broken your heart, you don't love her enough. Mm-hmm. And to see people getting caught in cracks in life where we should have a better society for looking after each other and we just don't. It just made me more activist.
Booker says he launched his campaign in part because of former President Jimmy Carter, who told him he had to run from the heart. There were a lot of laughs during the conversation with Montana Governor and former presidential candidate Steve Bullock. The Democrat talked about growing up in Big Sky country where there's no limit on big ideas. And he revealed that one of his favorite ways to stay connected with people is by visiting dive bars. But his personal dream for the future is one that might take some negotiating on the home front.
What's on your bucket list?
On a bucket list has been to, and I've done like, I don't know, 12, 15 marathons. I've always wanted to try to do like that Ironman, even though I can't. But I'm getting older, I'm recognizing. I would love to travel overseas with my family. I have this dream of when I'm all done, I said to my wife, I want to buy one of those big motorhomes and just travel all. And my wife said, well, you will be traveling alone. Because that doesn't sound fun at all to me.
She kicked off her campaign in a snowstorm and has slowly but surely been gathering momentum ever since. Straight ahead in our Candidate Cafe special, the role Wayne's World played in the life of Midwestern moderate Amy Klobuchar. And the newest candidate on the campaign trail isn't concerned about his late start. What brought Deval Patrick from Chicago's South Side to Boston's Beacon Hill?